All right, so we are in Algebra 1, Lesson 16-3. Today's date is Tuesday, April 23rd, 2019. Make sure your name and date are on your notes. All right, so we're doing the easy version of solving quadratics. We're about to do a harder version in the near future. Today I just want to show you how to take square roots. So here we have some blanks that I need someone to fill in. I need one volunteer to fill in these two blanks. To undo a square, take the what of both sides of the equation. I see 3 hands. Only 3 hands, 4 hands. Gunner?
Square root.
There it is. Square root. Write it down. Square root. Thank you, Gunner. And come back over here. 50 XP. All right. And I'll show you what that looks like down here. The side that didn't have a square could be something or something. It's that thing I talked about in the warm-up. The words I'm looking for starts with a P and an N, if you know what those words are. Andres?
Positive or negative?
There it is, positive or negative. So we're going to add that plus or minus symbol. That means that it could be a positive or it could be a negative. So whenever I write in the future, if I write plus or minus 3, that means this is the equivalent of saying 3 and negative 3. It's just a condensed way of saying that. So if you need to write that down because you think you'll forget, you can. You don't need to write that down. But plus or minus 3 is 3 and a negative 3, or negative 3 and a 3. It doesn't matter the order. All right, thank you, Andres. So Gunnar and Andres, I have your cards now. All right, so this was an example, I think. What was our warm-up? It was very similar to our warm-up. So what am I going to do to both sides here? Gunnar's ready to go. Anyone else? Julian?
Square root.
Square root what?
Both.
Both of them. All right, so I'm going to take the square root of the left and the square root of the right. And I'd like to have this little tail on the right-hand side. You don't need to do that, but it makes it really useful to know where the square root ends. For example, if I did square root of, I'll do the old-fashioned way, square root of 25x, is that the square root of 25 or the square root of 25x? It's kind of hard to say, but if you definitely have a tail at the end, it makes it a lot easier to see what you're doing. So you don't have to, but it is kind of nice to have that tail at the very end of the square root. Yeah, thank you, Julian. We take the square root of both sides, and now can someone tell me what the answer is after we do Julian's step of taking the square root of both sides? Sergio?
X equals 5.
Careful.
Negative or positive?
Yeah, positive or negative, plus or minus 5. Yeah, thank you, Sergio. And if I want to pronounce this thing, I can say plus or minus. So this is how I pronounce it, plus or minus 5. And there's my answer. I can just box that. Yeah, thank you, Sergio. Wait, did I already give you XP? I did, okay. All right, what about this second one, the one on the right-hand side? X plus 1, that quantity squared. So I need to undo the square. How can I undo the square? And what does that look like? It's basically the same thing. Anyone else want to give it a shot? Someone that hasn't got XP today? Cohen?
Square of x plus 1.
Square of x plus 1?
Student error. Square root.
You can be nicer about it. Yeah, Cohen, can you go ahead and fix that for us as well?
Square root x plus 1.
There it is. So take the square root of that and the square root of the other side as well, right?
Yeah.
All right. So I'm going to take the square root of both sides. Thank you, Cohen. And then can someone tell me what to write for my final answer? Cohen, I have your card now. Only Andres knows what to write. Go for it, Andres.
So it's going to be x plus 1
X plus 1.
equals 5 plus or minus 5.
There it is.
Yeah,
Plus or minus
yeah.
5. Yeah, thank you, Cohen. Or sorry, thank you, Andres. And Gunnar. So next time, just be nicer about it, but you can still get the XP for doing that.
Okay.
And then there's one additional step to solve for the x, and I'll do that really quickly here. I just have to subtract 1 from both sides. -1, -1. So therefore, x, these cancel out, is equal to -1 plus or minus 5. That's how I could write that. Question? Yeah, so you can do it a few different ways. If I choose the plus, that means if I'm choosing the plus here, that's going to be -1 plus 5, which is 4. And if I do the other one, if I choose the minus sign, -1 minus 5, -1 minus 5, that's the same thing as adding a -5, and that's going to be a -6. So this is really saying my answers are 4 and -6. The plus or minus here means two different things. And notice how it's definitely not positive or -5, it's a little bit switched. So if you don't know what this means, maybe add this to your notes. I'll wait for people to stop writing. All right, so at the very beginning of the year, I think it was Unit 2 that we started talking about how to solve equations. We talked about order of operations. What is the order that you carry out operations if you're trying to simplify? Gunnar.
Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally, you're fantastic.
There it is. Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. PEMDAS. And if you ever forget it, it is always on the wall, left of Einstein, above all of those roots, zeros, solutions, and x-intercepts. And Gunnar, can you also tell us what these mean? What does P mean?
Parentheses, exponents, multiplication, division, addition, subtraction.
And I guess I'm running out of room. Multiplication, division, addition, subtraction. We don't need to write all of them out. I think most people remember them. But I guess parentheses and exponents, maybe not. I don't know. So whenever I'm solving, and that's what I'm doing in this whole lesson, I'm solving. That means solving, I'm going to the top. So let's do an arrow here. We're going this direction to solve. That means if I'm trying to undo things, I first need to undo addition and subtraction, and then multiplication, then division, then exponents, then parentheses. All right, so using this, we should be able to do 4 homework assignments. 4 homework assignments. 2 of them are strategy-based, 1 of them is kind of intro-based, and 1 of them is kind of harder. So example 2 is like 1 homework assignment, example 3 is like another homework assignment, and then there's 2 other homework assignments that just ask you, what is the strategy? So after these 2 examples, we're done with our notes. We can blaze through the homework. All right, so I need to find the zeros of the function. What does it even mean, find the zeros of the function? What am I really doing here? Can someone do the first step, changing out that f of x for a different number? Anyone remember what we're doing? Fernando? Change what to 0? Oh yeah, so this f of x is now 0 is equal to 2x squared minus 128. So we've changed this function into an equation. Thank you, Fernando. And I can get your card now too. All right, and then what do I do? Andres.
Plus 128 on both sides.
Let's do it. Everyone follow along. We're going to add 128 on both sides, plus 128. The reason we did not divide by 2 is because I'm starting on this bottom rung. I'm getting rid of the subtraction first by taking the inverse operation, and I'm adding. All right, I now have 128 on the left-hand side. I still have this 2x squared on the right-hand side. Next, what do I do? Jose?
Square both.
Ooh, careful. So am I going to get rid of the exponent or the multiplication first? So I just did this step. Let's move up a rung. I'm going to get rid of either multiplication or division next. Yeah, so what am I going to do to both sides? There it is. Divide by 2 on both sides. Divide by 2. And what do we get on the left-hand side, Jose? It is indeed 64. All right, we're almost there. Thank you, Jose. We have one final step. I need to undo this exponent. So that means I'm on the final rung up here. I guess there are no parentheses to undo. I'm trying to undo the exponent. What do I do, Fernando?
Square root.
Square root both sides. There it is. Square root, square root. We ran out of room, so we can come back up here. So that means when I square root, what do I have on the left-hand side, Fernando?
8.
Careful. You have half of the answers.
Oh. Plus and then negative.
Yep. Plus or minus, and that's equal to x. Perfect. And if you want to write out the full answer, you can, but this is definitely enough for what I want for the notes. This literally means that x is equal to -8 and that x is equal to +8. It's just a condensed way of writing it, all in one line.
Josie helped me
I don't think you... Did you need
Yeah, I
help? You
did.
did? Okay. Josie helping, Fernando for getting it right, and Fernando for reporting the help. All right. All right, give me a fist of 5 on example 2. How well did you follow it? How well did you follow that one? All right. Let's try the other type of example. I see our average score is about 4. Example 3. I need to find the zeros of this function. So what do I have to do? First step, quiet raised hand. I want to get more cards in, We got some good backups. Andres and Kona are backups. I want someone that hasn't participated yet. What do I do for my first step? I have another backup. Yeah, Josie. Yeah, we're going to substitute and we get 0 and rewrite the rest of it. So x minus 10 quantity squared minus 36. Thank you, Josie. You can turn in your card. All right. What do I do next? Another quiet raised hand. I'm trying to call on people that haven't participated. Sergio Hood. I want to hear from Montse. I haven't heard from Jenny. I haven't heard from. Did I get you yet, Julian? I did? Okay. Yeah, go for Eder.
Add -36 to both sides.
You're really, really close. You don't add a -36.
Positive?
Yes, you just add the positive 36. So add 36 to both sides. Add 36. Add 36. Chunk, chunk. 36 cancels out. 36 is now on the left-hand side. I'm left with this x minus 10 quantity squared. Yeah, thank you, Eder. And I can get your card now. Okay, what do I do next? This is very similar to this problem that we had right up here. What do I do down here? Thank you, Eder. I don't have it. If you want to see if you can borrow some from Mr. Warner, or no, okay. Anyone new want to go? No one new. No one new. All right, Cohen.
Take the square root of 36 and the square root of x minus 10.
All right, take the square root of both sides, and what do we have on the left-hand side, Cohen?
6.
Plus or minus, perfect. And then on the right-hand side, we're left with.
X minus 10.
Thank you. Yeah, x minus 10. Thank you, Cohen. And then finally, what do? I'm finally inside the parentheses. I'm on that final rung. And then once I'm inside the parentheses, I start all over. Sergio? We're going to add 10 to both sides. Add 10 to both sides. That 10 cancels out. What do we have on the left-hand side then, Sergio?
6.
Yeah, plus or minus 6. There it is. And then is equal to x. Cool. So you can box that answer. That's good enough for me. But on Khan Academy, usually they do like their 2 answers. So what are those 2 answers? Someone else. Thank you, Sergio. What are the 2 answers that you get from doing plus or minus 6? So 10 plus or minus 6. Yeah, Jose. So x is equal to 16 is when you add, and x is equal to 4 when you subtract. There they are. Our 2 answers are also those. Thank you, Jose. That's all I've got for you guys. So I don't want to know how well you followed the lesson. This time I want to know how well do you think you can do these problems on your own? Guess out of 5 points, how well can you do these problems on your own? I see a 1. Okay, you're joking. A 3, a 4, a 4, a 4, a 4, a 5, a 3, a 4, a 4, and a 3. All right, those are some pretty high scores. Hopefully by the end of today, everyone is at least at a 4, if not a 5. Please write your summaries. The main thing to take away from this lesson is how do you undo a square? How do you undo a square, and what happens when you undo a square? You get that plus or minus. Please have those things in your summary in some shape or form. Once you finish that, there are 4 homework assignments on Khan Academy, but I gave you guys plenty of time. It's only 8:23. We get out of here at 8:53, so you have over half the class to work on the homework.